you look like you wanted to say something. So.
Yeah, I would personally, this is my personal opinion, but I would argue that cults are a prime example of what not to do in polyamory. If it feels like a cult, get out.
If it just
Cults
feels like
are
it.
just bad when it comes to that relationship. You idolize this person, they are for sure using you and using your insecurities against you.
Alrighty, what up, you guys? I'm Bryson Smith.
And I'm Javin, and this is Etcetera. Woo! Yes, we're back again, a second time in the same clothes because we decided that this was too big of a conversation to not have a part two. And we have another guest. Her name is Anna, and she's going to also comment about her experience on this topic. Good friend of ours. And she's going to be talking about it. So, next stage of this conversation is essentially, we talked about the logistics of a polyamorous relationship, what it is, and kind of the difficulties that can come along with that just by being in that relationship. So now I think we should broaden the scope and talk about this. What does society think about it? Like, why does society care? Who fucks who? Why does it matter? Where does it matter? And what are some of the weird things that happen?
Well, for me, I think
the
reason why we have, or one of the reasons why we have a negative stigma on it, is because of religion, specific Christianity. Because I know America is built off Christianity values,
certain Christian values.
So, I think that's sort of like when we start talking about multiple people in a relationship, which I think that's part of the reason why it would have a bad stigma.
Right.
Agree? Disagree? Anyone?
No, I absolutely agree with you.
Okay.
I think it's most definitely based on that. But if you look at history, and
you could pull the mic to you too when you need to say something.
This is kind of awkward.
Oh, it's backwards. I'm sorry. Now, perfect.
Now we're here.
We're in business.
But I think also when you look at history, polyamory is not a new idea at all. And often in other religions that are not, your big three.
Yeah, like
it's actually quite normal.
Kings have had many wives and queens have had,
even in the Bible multiple times.
Yeah.
Anyway, just had to put it out there. Continue with what you were saying. I just had to say that.
I also think that a lot of people just don't know how to function that way.
Right.
We're not
raised in that culture.
Yeah, we're not raised that way. It's the same conversation that you can have about people in homosexuality. It's just not something that we're raised in, but it's something that
has always been around.
Always happened.
Fun fact. I'm sorry. I'm going to list off a series of facts. The creator of Wonder Woman, the author and the creator of Wonder Woman, was in a throuple relationship, a committed one over many years. They had several children together. It's fucking awesome. Look it up. It's real. And they were super into BDSM, so that's why Wonder Woman in the early years had a lot of BDSM themes. Second, Abraham Lincoln, super gay, provable, multiple examples of him being super fucking gay. It's been around for fucking ever. You need to chill the fuck out. Anyway, continue.
I wanted to know what Anna was going to talk about. Like, you didn't have a reply. Anna, did you want to say something about that? The stigma?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
So I was raised in a conservative Christian household, and as I grew older, I was like, yeah, polyamory, it literally doesn't mean you're weird or you can't stick to one person, you have commitment issues, anything like that.
Okay.
You just love that many people. But I never thought that I'll be part of one, or I was raised to think monogamy is the thing.
Right.
And so that's good for me. I don't mind. But then I had a partner who was like, I want an open relationship. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I would want people to be that open with me and be like, hey, I want this thing. And them to be like, yeah, for sure. I trust you. You're my friend.
Right.
I would want the same thing for me. But I never thought I would be in that situation. And I was so used to monogamy that I thought I didn't know how different it would be, which is really dumb, right? That's completely different.
I got you.
So being a person who was raised to always think, oh, I'm going to marry the person that I date, it was very much don't jump into it. You need to know more. You can't just be like, oh, I'm fine with it, so I must be okay.
So it was kind of a shock for you?
Yeah, religiously.
I got you.
So it's like, yeah, I'm not part of that religion anymore either. So
you're saying because of how you were raised in this society, you had this expectation of how relationships are, and that affected your view on polyamory.
Oh, and just really quick, a lot of the stuff that people like think is like the issues with polyamory is because they jump into it. That's what creates all those like stereotypical issues in an open relationship.
So basically, like what Nadiyah was saying earlier, like do your research before hopping into something like that.
Find yourself, figure. But it's interesting. Why do you think, this is a broad topic, almost nobody has a clear answer, but why do you think people have such a problem with it? Even in spite of the Christian values, it's not as if it's a foreign concept. It's throughout history. Why do you think America in particular is so, why is it freaking the fuck out about multiple people being in a relationship?
I think it's because we're so sold on the idea of people becoming our property.
Oh, that's okay. Let's elaborate on that.
I think as a whole, you know, we want to lay claim to things. We are taught divide and conquer. We're taught this is my thing and my thing only. So we have this possessiveness with us. So we're not innately, because over a long period of time, we've been taught like, no, one person, one marriage. This is how this goes. So I think that people have this idea that, you know, relationships are almost essentially just like property. This is mine.
And therefore sharing is like, and in fact, there's a lot of sexist, not to piggyback off of that, but for men to be promiscuous early in their life is smiled upon and considered a positive thing. Right. So it's not as if we're completely unfamiliar with the idea of polyamory. Like, men have often been celebrated for, oh, you were with this person and this person. That's that fucking stud. But if a woman does that, it's considered, you know, shameful. Right. They're a whore or a slut or promiscuous, and that's down. And that comes from, like you were saying, the idea of women being property.
Well, I've always thought of it because I've spoken about this too. I think women are high, or not I think, but I know that women are held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
Like a higher, like over men in that sense, which is why it's like when I think when women do that, they kind of, you know, that's why they get all these negative names. Because they have well, that's the definition of a double standard, right? Yeah. Like there's one standard for these people and one standard for these people, even though they're supposed to be equals. Right. That's not fair. So when you add polyamory to the mix and have complexity where it's just like, okay, property no longer applies, I can see where you're coming from in that regard, where it's like we freeze up and become uncomfortable. We're like, well, not mine.
Because you don't really know how to navigate that space. Even think of the way that we are in our normal regular daily life. I have my car. I go to my apartment. I have my girlfriend. This is my food. This is my, like, we claim ownership to a lot of things. Right. And I think, you know, just because we're social creatures, like that just is how your environment becomes. But when you become the thing that changes your environment, that's when things get fucking sticky.
Yeah. I feel like that my everything is mine is an American thing.
Definitely.
It's kind of in our culture. You know, they tell you to do everything for yourself and do this and get yours. And, you know, because I was talking to my friend she's from the Caribbean islands, and she was telling me about how like they live in a community and they share everything with each other. There is no it's, oh, you need this here. And it's the same, you know, for everyone in the community.
Absolutely. I'm half Sri Lankan, and my family in Sri Lanka, they live on a compound. Right. They have multiple houses in a large area, and they live together, separately but together. Right. So, yes, it's a conservative type of, you know, government and community, but also they also have communal things that, you know, there's no bound there. So the idea of loving more people, especially because a lot of those religions do have it's okay to love more than one person in it. Now you understand why they live in whatever harmony, or how they're able to live next to each other and have multiple partners and be able to be in multiple relationships, because they've grown in that environment. Right. It's not foreign.
Right.
Yeah. And So with that, do you think there's the individualistic nature of America, and other countries are maybe a little bit more communal, community-based, but now with the individualistic mentality of America, it's almost like people who are polyamorous are just considered disloyal or deviant. Do you think there are realistic downsides to polyamory? Like in a societal context, do you think there's something about allowing for polyamory to be rampant, quote unquote? Do you think that can actually degrade society in some way? Or do you think that's propaganda bullshit?
That's a hard question to answer for me personally. I don't know. It's like
I want to hear all of your answers, frankly.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
I want to know what Anna has to say, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm not good at being like, I have something. No. But just, I might need you to repeat it just because I forgot the exact words.
Is there something about polyamory, if we allow for it, do you think there's something that we would lose as a society? Do you think there's a downside that would, it would be a bad thing in some way?
Morals?
Yes, but only because society tends to topple itself. And the reason why is that most people are not ready. You need to have confidence. Like Nadiyah said, you need to be sure of yourself. And any insecurities you have, as soon as you open yourself up to a open relationship, everything wrong with it, even if it's your fault, you start seeing your partner as, oh, I knew it. I knew they were a liar. I knew they cheated. Like I knew, because everything wrong with it falls into those stereotypes, again, if you're not educated. So for me, as soon as anything went wrong, I'd be like, oh, I knew it. I knew they were just looking to get away from me, or I'm not good enough. And that's my issues. I want to get away from me. I'm not good enough. And I was putting it on them. And so, of course, it wasn't going to work. Yeah. Even though we had known each other for like 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
Got you.
Yeah.
So you're saying, if we allow for it, you're saying all the problems that polyamory naturally has built into it would become more of a problem in society.
Sorry. Society as a whole is immature. Like a lot of people still, especially the older generation, oh, therapy is bad. Like I'm not sick.
no.
I'm not
I
crazy.
see what you're saying.
So they wouldn't work on themselves.
Yeah.
And they would just be willing to blame everyone else because that's everyone's base instinct.
You're saying we shouldn't rush into it.
Absolutely.
It would form. Okay, I see where you're.
You all have to. I'm sorry, I'm not good at explaining.
I get what you're saying. Does anyone else have something to comment on that?
With that being said,
Right. We're in.
with that being said, there is a positive side to it. The absolute positive side to it is because we grow closer as a community. Now we don't, if it's done correctly and we're all mature enough for it, and we maybe I don't know, maybe if there's like a colony of people just to see if this works out.
It sounds like a cult. When I hear it. I'm like, this would be a cult.
Sounds like a cult.
And I was thinking that the moment we started having this conversation, I'm like,
yeah, it does. But when even in studying, societies that work that way, they're a little bit more harmonious. They have a little bit more sense of togetherness. Even the children that are produced have a more sense of togetherness because now I'm raised in a community filled with love.
I think of Midsummer. Have you seen that horror movie? I don't know. I'm sorry. It just, but I'm listening.
Okay. But doesn't not to interrupt, but doesn't marriage seem a little culty though? Like that seems just as creepy to me. Where you have all of these rituals.
I never thought of marriage as a cult.
You literally have a religious leader promising you to another person, your immortal souls are tied together for life and death. Like, that's not culty to you? That sounds batshit crazy.
Maybe it is, but I've never connected the two in my mind.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because it's normal, right? And
Yeah,
I think that's
why.
the idea, normalizing it. Oh,
That actually makes perfect sense because that, again, like you just said, I wouldn't have really thought about it that way until just now when you said
like
it. And you're like sitting here and the cogs are turning and you're like, holy
This does sound culty.
yeah.
This does sound a little strange.
When you were
It's a little
talking
bit
about
weird.
togetherness, I kept thinking about Midsummer and how close they were and how weird it was. Like, you guys are a little bit too close and kids. Yeah.
That's a little
But
much.
but imagine if that was spread out over a country.
Even more weird to me. Like,
But when you think of countries like France, where they openly have
Except
polyamorous relationships, and you're walking around the street, you don't feel weird. It's just the place.
Right.
And it's called the city of love. You feel nothing.
And language of love too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't get that, oh my God, this is weird. There's so many people and they're with other people and there's this community and there's people walking around talking. You don't think about it that way.
Right?
They're just people.
Because it's normal there, right?
I think there's a judgment
that
comes with polyamory that is a big part of this topic. Like it's the judgment that's behind it. Because you get I feel like a lot of people get the Mormon, I have a husband has 6 wives, sister wives, kind of thing
pops in.
So, and that's one part of it, yes, but there's the other part of it where you have, if you took this neighborhood and you had a married couple in one house and they had an open relationship and they were sleeping with their neighbor and it was fine.
Right, yeah.
It was completely fine. It was an arrangement that they had. They just wanted to be close together, but they still wanted space. Then that's not so weird.
And it would never come up to you. Like, that's their business, and they would never, like, people in those kinds of relationships try everything they can to keep it not your fucking business. There's like, this will never be your problem. Go for it.
In France, since having multiple partners is normal, do they have the same stigma out there than they do out here?
I actually don't know.
No,
do you know that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't.
Something we need to research.
If it's more normal there, I would imagine that.
I wouldn't think so because the way that it's just so, like, people can walk down the street holding hands with each other and it be not even noticed.
Right.
So I wouldn't think so. I think that it's purely a judgment thing. Like, people have an idea of what you should be doing and how a relationship should be, and they want to impose that idea on other people, and that's where things really fall apart.
That's where it's kind of shitty. You look like you wanted to say something. So.
Yeah, I would personally, this is my personal opinion, but I would argue that cults are a prime example of what not to do in polyamory. If it feels like a cult, get out.
If it just
Cults
feels like
are
it.
just bad when it comes to that relationship. You idolize this person. They are for sure using you and using your insecurities against you to keep you there.
Yeah.
Because that happens too.
If you get the God told me to fuck your wife talk,
man.
Maybe
that is
just maybe not be there.
It's a real conversation.
No, I'd rather talk to God about that myself. Thank you.
Not unless you've said, I want to role play this, and we all consented, and we're all good with that mentality. That's not. No.
Okay. So let's talk about why it's so weird, because it is weird. Like, we've all, in some way, we've thought about polyamory. We've had some experiences with polyamory. Everyone on some level has thought about it, whether it be, I want a 3-way one time. That is technically a form of polyamory. It's on the spectrum.
Right.
So why is it that if it is so diverse, why is the man in Utah, the Mormon with 6 wives, why is that the immediate thought we come to? Why does society have such an animosity towards anything different in regards to sexuality, in particular this, where it's considered irresponsible and promiscuous and, you just can't commit and you're taking advantage of people?
Because it was the first idea that we got publicly on TV and it was posed a certain way. And then people were like, oh, this is weird. This is taboo. This is just, whoa, this is so far. They give us the so far
the extreme,
end of this spectrum first. So that's your idea of it. That's the first thing that clicks in your mind, and that's not the only thing that's out there.
Not even close.
Not even close. That is one of the extremes. And it was given to people to normalize the extreme. And it's like, that is not everybody's reality. That's not even close. Now, there is people like that, and that's fine, but
usually.
And then again, we get the documentaries on cults and what those you're fed the bad parts.
Right.
I have not personally seen any good mainstream media portrayals of a polyamorous relationship. They always focus on what can go wrong. Not saying that stuff doesn't go wrong, but you can show a healthy relationship. you can, and they don't. Like, I've only seen, like, maybe a couple of comic artists show a realistic, good portrayal, but nothing large.
And for a while, that was true for same-sex couples for a long time, where it was either a joke or it was a negative thing. Or this is a weird trope assigned to same-sex couples where they're oddly incestuous.
What's that word mean?
That is a it's like a brother thing or a sister. Like that happens too much in some media. It's weird. I don't understand it. But it's similar with the polyamory thing, where it's this weird older couple who are looking at a younger person being like, hey, we want you to be involved, or weird shit that is portrayed as if it was weird. So, but on some level, like we said, those extremes are extremes, but they exist, don't they? And if they exist, don't we have some responsibility to kind of police people's behavior and try to investigate, like, this looks and feels weird, so shouldn't I do something about that? Do you think there's maybe some of that in there, or
I think
is that not common?
I feel like a lot of white people think that way.
Yeah, I was like,
they want to police everything. I'm like,
chill out.
But even think of in more recent news, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah.
In their whole situation that imploded, and they're looking at Jada as the villain in the whole situation, when in all actuality the couple had an agreement.
Right.
And on top of that, if you look at and pay fucking attention,
Right.
Will was probably fucking Margot Robbie at the same time that all of this is happening. So why is it my business what you do in your relationship? If it works for you and that's how you guys found happiness and that's how you guys got back to a serious, committed, monogamous relationship, and you guys had to grow, it ain't none of my business.
Right.
I really, like, why do I even have to have a judgment about that? Why do I have to police that? That's not my life.
Right.
I don't even have the same social status as you.
Right.
I have I don't pay your bills. I don't clean your floors. I don't live in your household. Why does it matter? It does not affect me.
I think people just have their perception of, their idols, their celebrities that they admire so much. They want them to be a certain way, and when they're not, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah,
like Jada and Will was like the couple in Hollywood. Like, I need that type of love or type of thing. And then you hear about that, and people are just kind of like, they out here fucking other people.
But what if you looked at it in the more positive and still idolized their marriage because they were able to get through a rough time and get through it together and still be married and committed to each other? They just had to find a way to be happy.
And I was talking to my friend about that. I said exactly what she said, actually.
Like, why can't that be looked up to? In my opinion, that's a very healthy marriage and a very healthy bond. Because if you're honest enough with your partner to say, you are this or we is making me unhappy and I gotta go figure this out. Can you give me the space to figure this out?
Right.
Yo, if you can do that, that takes a lot of trust and a lot of love and a lot of commitment to allow yourself to have your partner say to you, yo, I need space from you. And not only do I need space from you, I need to be with somebody else.
Right.
And I need you to be okay.
That's that's what you and your partner are going through, and that's the steps you take independent of society.
Right.
So maybe on some level we should try to address what are our societal values and how should they change. For example, loyalty is something that is greatly pushed in our society, and I don't think that's unreasonable, but loyalty manifests as property. You're mine and you're not allowed to change outside of me.
I see the argument.
Yeah,
I'm listening.
No, it's fair. Loyalty is a fair value, but maybe we should also consider change and working through that change to be we should maybe celebrate that as well, where we don't hold people's personal problems outside of you, their mistakes. We don't hold them accountable for shit that has nothing to do with you, and celebrate the fact that they overcame it on their own through teamwork and working together. And loyalty can come from that. And polyamory can be a celebration of that in some way.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, what were
Does
you going to
anybody
say?
else?
I was going to say, maybe there's some form of like healthy Loyalty, because loyalty is a big thing for me too. Like, you gotta be
fair.
loyal. If you're not loyal, I can't even trust you. You know, if you can't trust,
important.
yeah, if you can't trust someone, how could we can't share anything? It's like
It's a cornerstone of a relationship.
right. That's why it's kind of like weird. I can't really see. It's like I see what you were saying, and it's such a weird answer. Like, it's like.
I think it's because everybody's idea or model of loyalty is different.
That's fair.
We all have our own perspectives, which is the reason why when he's saying this, I completely agree with you, because I see loyalty as, okay, this is my definition of loyalty. Mm-hmm. This is what I think loyalty is. And if I'm going to have a partner, I'm going to tell you what my definition of loyalty is. So I'm open and upfront, and you can tell me your idea. If they conflict, we can work on it. If they conflict too much, then there's no reason to even step within these bounds if it's not something that's workable.
Right.
Okay.
I thought as soon as the words left your mouth, I'm like, yeah, loyalty is different for different people.
It would have to be.
So like for you, Bryson, yours is we don't see other people. That's loyalty to me. Whereas loyalty to me is, I forgot it. Darn it. No, that's not possible. Anyway, for me, it's more, you trust me enough to let me do what I need to do to express myself. And you still are with me.
Right.
And you also have that same freedom. That does fall under if you want to see someone else or you're feeling attracted to someone else in a different way than me, and you feel like you need to fill both of those, or not, that's the wrong language to use, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
Then, yes, you're still being loyal to me. It's when you aren't honest with me, when you're telling me you can do stuff that I can't do.
Right.
That's not trusting me.
Yeah.
So it's not loyalty.
It breeds insecurity.
What about you, though, Javin?
I think,
want to know your thoughts.
So in my opinion, there are two kinds of trust, and both are extremely important to a relationship, and yet couldn't be more different. But people treat them as the same thing. It's the trust you have where you're at the edge of something and you take a step. The first kind of trust is where you take a step and you know it's going to be, you know that you're going to land. You know you're going to take a step. It's there. Something's going to be there for you. The other kind is where you take a step and you have no fucking clue whether you're going to land on solid ground, but you trust that it's going to be okay anyway.
That's very poetic.
Yeah. And both are necessary in a relationship. The first one is the foundation you've laid throughout the beginnings of your relationship, where you're like, if something fucks up, if something goes wrong, she's going to be there for me, or he's going to be there for me, and it's going to be fucking okay.
Right.
I know they're there for me, period. I know they're going to do this thing. But then there's the other kind where they change and you have no fucking clue what's going on. And the second kind of trust is, well, it's okay. Anyway, I know that no matter what does happen, no matter what pain or what goes through, I can still trust them.
Right.
And that's what I think polyamory, that kind of trust, the second kind, is a lot more present than in a lot of monogamous relationships. And I think everyone needs different ratios of that kind of trust. So for you, the first kind would definitely be like, this is what makes me feel loved. This is what makes me feel secure. Even though the second kind is definitely present. But like in other people's, it's like, no, I don't really need the first kind as much. I need that second. I need to know that everything's going to be okay no matter what happens.
Right.
All that. So that's my opinion. I don't know. Maybe it's all bullshit, but that's how I feel.
No,
that really wraps it up with the time situation.
Thank you so much for letting me.
Oh yeah, no problem, Anna.
Javin was a little too generous and was like, does anyone from the audience want to join, share their opinion? I was like,
not too generous. The right amount of generous.
Yes, definitely.
Final comments, just wrapping up. Whatever.
I guess if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. I think that we should just respect everyone's relationships.
Most definitely.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Final comment.
People love who they love, and love grows and love fades, and love is a beautiful thing. And if you love somebody enough to be honest with them and respect their wishes and be adventurous, then go for it. If you're not that type of person, then just know that you're not that type of person, and don't force yourself into something that you aren't ready for, you aren't mature for, you aren't built for. Just know yourself, know your partners, be safe, wear a mask.